a 35-minute moto, do you think it's advantageous to potentially take 30 grams of carbs so that you don't slow down the last few laps of the race? Do you think that it is beneficial to potentially take?
Yeah, I do. Especially, with all the new research and all the things that they're doing in cycling, like 120 grams an hour and stuff. That's crazy to me. Like, I'm more like a 60 or 40 grams an hour kind of guy. I'm a super fat burner. Like, I go to, I'm an 80% fat burner over a 20% carb burner. So it's not as big of a deal for me. But for some of my athletes, I've been actually thinking about how I could rig up something. I'm probably saying too much, but like a gel bottle that you can freeze before the race that squirts, that you can just squeeze in your helmet, like say at the 20-minute mark, even if you get half of it and it's 30 grams of carbs, like that could be a huge boost at the end of the moto. So I think I'm kind of working on something in my shop that I feel like could be beneficial to everyone in the future. I've got to perfect it a little bit, but the idea is there. So yeah, I do. I think that there's something to be said for that, especially at the end of a hot, long moto. Like if you just had, not wearing a Camelback or something that's cumbersome, or just, something that you have to deal with a hose going around your helmet and all that stuff. Just like something that's very simple, that's aimed straight in your mouth, that you could just grab your chin bar, something that you do regularly anyways, adjusting your helmet. You just grab your chin bar and kind of squeeze the inside and it goes in your mouth. So I do think it'd be beneficial.
100%. Sorry, my little girl woke up, and so I've been thinking of that for a while too, and I almost even think like having almost like a liquid pill or gel or something that you could just stick in your mouth, and then you just bite it in 15 minutes or something, and then boom.
But here's the only downside, and Zach, maybe this will save you a little bit of homework and headaches. The carbohydrates, they've got to be mixed with water. That's why if you read the gel, it says you must chase with, a mouthful of water. The human body's got enough stored energy to go 60 minutes. So
Coach, why is that though? Why is that?
What do you mean?
Why do you have to mix it with water?
It's based on the concentration of carbohydrates. It's the official term is called osmolality. For your body to absorb carbohydrates, it has to be between a 6 to an 8% carbohydrate concentration rate. So if you take straight sugar in, the concentration rate is so high, it'll ferment in your belly. So you got to think about it. Air temperature is up, heart rate is up, dehydration level is already down because you've been sweating your balls off for 25 minutes. So it's a perfect combination for you to get sick stomach.
Right.
So to Zach's point, the big key is when the gate drops, you've already topped off your stored sugar. That's called glycogen. So if you eat breakfast 2 hours before, and then you're maintaining fluid intake, and then you do that right up to the start of the race, you literally have 60 minutes of stored energy. Now, obviously, the higher the heart rate goes, that's probably going to pull down to around 40 to 45 minutes. But if you try to ingest anything and you don't get the carbohydrate concentration right, you're unfortunately going to either vomit in your helmet or you're going to poop your pants. Not to be rude, but that's just unfortunately, the body's got what's called the hierarchy of needs. So when the heart rate is up, it's only concerned about not dying of a heat stroke. So it shuts down digestion. That's what makes moto, I think, such a badass sport. And Zach's already, gotten into the off-road world. It's even more difficult for off-road because they're doing 3 hours.
Yeah.
And, we've got some GNCC riders that we work with. They're burning upwards of 33 to 3,500 calories in a 3-hour race. And like Zach was saying, just so for the listener's sake, when Zach says he's running on 40 grams, there's 4 calories to every gram of carbohydrate. So you take 40 times 4. So he's ingesting 160 calories per hour. When he was referencing the idea that they're going over and above that, they're recommending 450 to 500 calories an hour. That's like a Molotov cocktail. And this is another thing that I hate about social media. You'll get one person that does well with 400 calories.
Yeah.
Everybody goes out and tries it. Next thing you know, they're vomiting and shit in their pants.
Yeah.
You've got to be very careful. When you hear somebody, like Zach said, you've got people that are experimenting. That is the key word. When you hear a professional cyclist is taking in 125 grams of carbs, multiply that by 4. So now they're taking in 450 to 500 plus calories. that's a Molotov cocktail. At the Olympic Training Center, it was a push when they would let us try to do 350. Go ahead.
Two things here. At the last Ironman I did, I was doing 100 grams an hour, and I felt like I still fell on my face at 4 hours in. You know,
Yeah,
like I felt like it
but we
wasn't
talked
enough.
about it. Yours was more dehydrated because if you look at your body weight afterwards, you lost more than 2% at the finish line. That's your biggest loss, was because the cell membrane, when it becomes dehydrated, carries less oxygen. So when you start getting tired, dehydration is going to be a larger impact than people give it credit for. A
What about
hydrated cell carries more oxygen.
Okay. So
you want to focus on hydration first for your Ironman. Like what Zach was saying, in your 35, 40-minute moto, we're in a catch-22 because we don't have a Camelback like GNCC does. We don't have a pit stop for fuel where they grab a water bottle. That's why I've always said motocross is a real man sport, because it's the hardest combination of both. It's not a 5K. It's not a half marathon. It's right in that spot where like 40 minutes of going wide open pretty much to Zach. Zach, if you don't mind me asking, what was your max heart rate on the motorcycle? Max heart rate?
190, 189.
What would be your average in an outdoor moto?
180, 182.
People, please listen to those numbers.
But I don't know if you
race.
saw, Rob, but I posted one of my guys, Liam Draper. I posted his workout file from Training Peaks from Camp Cooker GNCC, and his average was 186 for the 3 hours.
And what was his max?
196 or 197, I think.
And I hope the listeners are paying attention. A perfect race is when the difference between your average and your max is 10 to 12 beats. And Zach, your guy nailed it. When you're racing, your numbers, they match as well. And look at all the championships you have. See, that's why I love the fact, Zach, that you're willing to share those numbers, because I want the listeners to understand that there's that science behind it. Absolutely. It's not just turn blind's eye, turn the throttle, and just go till you puke.
Yeah,
it's not a methodology that works.
There's also I don't know if you saw, but Richard Carapaz, he's the EF rider for TDF, and he got an upper intestinal infection. But I've heard of a few guys locally getting it from like too many gels and the wrong, like you were saying, the wrong carb
concentration.
Concentration, and it like gets like literally like gels up in your guts, and you can't digest it.
And that's when it starts to ferment, and then you end up with excessive gas and diarrhea, nausea, the whole 9 yards.
Well,
and that's the hard part with digestion.
What about the new gels that they have? Like there's those marine gels where they're
Morton.
Okay.
Yep.
Where they're more liquid, you know, where it's more of a consistency of.
They're trying to get the concentration rate up, and they're trying to experiment with more sodium and potassium, which are the key pairing of electrolytes for absorption, and they're back to carbohydrate concentration. But like Zach said earlier, I mean, the fact that they're even entertaining going over 100 grams of anything, because that's 400 calories right there. That's a Molotov cocktail.
Effort, you guys know, if you ride your bicycle hard, or you're burning excess of 800 to 1200 calories in an hour.
But this is why nutritional timing has to be so ideal. If I know Zach's going to go out and race at 185 to 190, I want the most simple. And this is not a plug on my energy fuel, but that's why our energy fuel boost has an easy to digest carbohydrate with a lactic acid buffer, because we know the heart rate's going to be up. But that we have 3 formulas: one for 60 minutes and less, one for 1 hour to 2 hours, and then one for 3 and above. And that's because of the fluctuation of heart rate and duration. So that's the key. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
One thing that people also miss is like the days leading up are also super important. You know, like your day of eating it's for the day of, but it's not really as important as the day. You know, I struggled really bad to eat on race day. I was like watermelon and rice, and that was kind of it. Like it wasn't much other than that. Take a gel on the line and go for it, because for me, Thursday night and all day Friday was super important. Really, really specific, really programmed. Like those were non-negotiables for me. The same dinner, same food every week. Things that, you know, I think my favorite thing about training and learning and the coaching side is putting processes in place was absolutely key to my success. Like 100%, until I found how I could streamline what I was doing and make it repeatable, I was inconsistent. That's when I found consistency, was when I found my processes, I whittled them down and made it non-negotiable that all these things had to happen. and nothing was going to change them.
Well, and to your point, when you eat a gram of carbohydrate, your body will store water. So for every 1 gram of carbohydrate, your body will store 2.5 to 2.8 grams of water. So when your everyday food consists of fruits, vegetables, and lean protein, you're just properly hydrating every day. Your
Right.
body doesn't know if it's Saturday or if it's Tuesday. If you've been doing, to your point, if you've been doing it consistently, it's just another day on the bike.
Right.
That's the hard part, is especially for our listeners that have families and jobs and other obligations, versus wake up, eat, ride,
Exactly.
eat, nap, cross train, repeat. It's a totally different story. And this is why, and Zach, I'm sure you're experiencing it now, it's so hard working with professionals, where I've got a vet rider, and by noon on Monday, he's had 3 meetings. He's already gotten his children off to school, and you talk to a pro and it's noon and they're still in bed, and you're like, goodness gracious, man, you have all day to train, but don't take all day to do what should be done. It's like, oh,